welcome to We Found a Book. My name's Austin. This week we have a really good story for you from the Encartadian. I think it is really pleasant, actually. Ben, what do you think? Ha 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 ha. I agree. Do you remember that time we were in Grandpa Jeremy's attic and we came across this amazing and splendid book? I don't think I've ever been happier since that time. This is such an amazing story I have for you today. It's a continuation of other stories from our past. Ha, I agree, Ben. That's quite interesting.
What are you doing here?
Hello, Ben. Are you ready for the story?
Why are you here? Why are you in my room? Why are you here? You're supposed to be in Boston.
It's time for We Found a Book.
Is this some kind of joke or something? You're not answering my question.
Ben, are you ready for the episode of We Found a Book? This is episode 18.
Look, I don't know if this is some kind of weird way to get me back into this, but I told you, with everything that happened with Grandpa, I don't really want to continue this. And I get maybe this is some kind of like weird support thing, but it's not working, okay?
Ben, there's a new story about a puppet.
I don't want to do this.
Ben, would you like to remind the audience about
Austin.
the last two puppet episodes?
Look, it's weird enough that with Grandpa getting ill and you moving away with, please don't touch me, the book going away and then Grandpa suddenly getting ill, it's enough of a weird coincidence on my mind but you coming back here with the book and it looks...
Ben, he was our Grandpa Jeremy.
Did you get that thing reupholstered? Why does it look so fresh? Why does it look so new? That thing was in tatters.
I found a really good story from the book this month. It's called The Puppeting.
You're not going to stop until I do this, are you?
I don't understand what you mean, Ben. It's the time for We Found a Book.
Look, he just died 3 weeks ago.
Who died?
I don't want to talk about this. I don't care how you got here. I don't care what's going on. I don't want to leave.
Ben, sit down.
I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to do this. Can you please just go? Can you get out? I'm opening the door. Here. Just go. Go. I'm not kidding.
Welcome to We Found a Book, folks. The monthly podcast where we read a story from the Encartadian. This month, we have a really good episode.
I don't want to...
It's about a little puppet boy.
I'm sorry. I don't want to be rude. It's just this doesn't seem like the most appropriate way to go about this with everything that's happened. What?
My name's Austin.
What's...
And this
Are
is
you okay?
Ben. I'm here with Ben. Say hi, Ben.
You look pale. What's up with your eyes? I can't... Your pupils are so big. Were you staring at something were you staring at the sun or something? What the hell happened?
Ben, would you like to remind the audience
I can't see any kind of white in your eyes.
The last 2 months that we read the puppet stories?
Is this... Something's not right. What puppets? No, I don't want to talk about the puppet stories. Okay? That was fun when we had that, but it's gotten weird. It's gotten strange, and even after everything that we've read in the book, it's not anything that I want to talk about anymore, okay? If you want to find another podcast partner and do it, I don't care. I don't want that book anymore. It's not mine. If you want me to sign something that bequeaths it to you, go ahead. I don't, just get it out of my face.
Are you ready to start the episode?
I don't want to start an episode.
This story is called The Puppeting.
Jesus.
Oh, look how sweet she is, Dana gushed, grasping her husband's arm. They're all so precious, Ralph replied. I don't know how we're going to decide which one of them to adopt. The children gathered around their feet, yipped and tugged at the pants of the young couple, each one more eager than the last to be taken to a warm home. Anything would beat the hovel they had been resigned to. What was once a well-funded orphanage in the bustling metropolis of Silverwheat had been abandoned by all but the children. With the ruling monarchy fallen, the money to fund institutions such as these just didn't exist. The children, left without supervision or provisions, became feral and greedy. hunting in the nights for sustenance and fighting with another. And the children, left without supervision nor provisions, became feral and greedy, hunting in the nights for sustenance and fighting with one another for dominance. Come time to meet prospective parents, however, the children all appeared to be perfect angels, except for one. Dana and Ralph had been so busy ogling the children that it swarmed them the moment they walked through the crumbling orphanage door that they didn't notice him until he began pushing his way through the crowd. The little one was average as far as his size, but that's just about where the similarities stopped. They saw a child, yes, but upon closer inspection, he was made entirely of a flesh-colored wood. He was dressed in tattered slacks, and his lack of a shirt left an exposed door enlaced into his chest. Rusty hinges and a keyhole stood where shiny metals once glinted.
"What is that thing?"
shrieked Dana, clinging to her husband's arm. The creature continued to stumble towards the pair, prompting Ralph to say,
"I don't know, but just grab one of the normal ones and let's get out of here."
And that's exactly what the pair did. But not before Ralph gave the wooden boy a swift kick, causing him to fly into an adjacent wall where it crumbled to the floor. The couple made it home with their blonde-eyed, blue-haired boy unscathed. But this story isn't about Dana and Ralph. Dana and Ralph are the worst. Dana and Ralph don't tip people in the service industry. Dana and Ralph keep a cat man as a pet. Don't be Dana or Ralph. This story is about the crumbled pile of wood and screws which laid in a heap on the orphanage floor for quite a long while. This wasn't due to a lack of ability, for within his chest he carried the heart of a boy, but rather a general defeatism about his place in life. He stayed in that pile for quite a long time, thinking about bad thoughts and dreaming dark dreams. This is, of course, until a terrible scratching noise began to fill his head. He shook his head violently, but this did nothing to abate his problem. He took to bashing his head against the orphanage wall, but still nothing. It was only when the little boy filled up his body with a great amount of air and forced it out of his ears that a tiny white ant flew from his head. The boy caught it in his hand and examined it. Although his vision had been blurred from damage surely caused by this small insect, the little creature appeared to be wearing a monocle with a tiny top hat to match. This did little to charm the wooden boy, and without giving it much thought, he squished the white ant between his fingers. Or at least this was his intention, for just as he was carrying out the execution, the little bugger burrowed into his thumb, causing the puppet child to yell out in pain and frustration.
"Oh, nothing is going my way."
"I don't know how much sympathy you can expect," came a voice ringing in the boy's wooden head.
"Hey now, what's that supposed to mean?"
retorted the boy, not sure who he was talking to and not really caring.
"It means you just tried to kill a perfectly innocent little gentleman, and now you're throwing yourself a pity party. Not a very sympathetic cause, if I do say so myself,"
the voice rang out again.
"I caught you dinging around in my brain. How did you expect me to react?" "I suppose you'd see me for the gentleman that I am, and would treat me as such." "You're an ant. You're nothing but vermin."
A couple who had caught a glimpse of the boy quickened their pace to avoid someone who seemed to be arguing with himself.
"Oh, now you can't mean that,"
the white ant said, emerging from the top of the boy's head.
"Why don't you tell old Concho what's really bothering you?"
The boy let out a defeated sigh.
"That's the ticket. Let's start out with a name," Concho said, latching on to the moment of weakness. "My name's Hugh," muttered the boy. "Now that's a start," Concho offered. "What's your story, Hugh?"
Giving in, Hugh began.
"Well, I used to be a human boy, the son of the most famous toy maker in Silverweed, in fact." "Ah, a child of worth," interjected the ant.
Hugh furrowed his grain and continued.
"I suppose you could say that. Anyways, my father and I had been making my first puppet when there was an accident. Next thing I knew, I was in this body, and my father was nowhere to be found. I see. Your father saw the abomination you'd become and decided he didn't want to be a parent to a little freak like you. Makes sense. Can't blame the guy, really, said Concha. Hugh cast his eyes downward and said nothing until the creature in his head prodded. So, what happened next? You were transformed into a puppet and abandoned by the only family you ever knew? And that's all well and good, but then what? After a few moments of Concha tapping incessantly on the boy's wooden head, he finally continued, annoyed. Ever since I've been looking for a new family, and if you've been around for very long, you've seen exactly how well things are going. Oh, I've got it now. So what you're telling me is that you need a new body, sure. Something to replace this hideous piece of driftwood that you reside in now, the white ant concluded. You find it at least compelling to sink your teeth into, retorted Hugh. Concha chuckled. Yeah, well, let's just say a few dozen others have had their fill in here, if you know what I'm saying. You're not exactly the cut of the day. You've got bigger holes in your head than... All right, I get it, interjected the puppet lad. Are you just gonna sit here and insult me then? Oh, no, far from it, my boy, Concha responded. I'm your morals. No, that's not right. I'm your judgment. Nope, that's not quite it either. Well, we'll figure it out. The point is, I'm here to help you get your body back. How is that possible? Hugh asked in disbelief. Let's just say I know a guy, the little bug answered mysteriously. What, like a body guy? I'm not sure I get it, questioned Hugh. No, not a body guy. What is that even? It's a sorceress. I know a sorceress, said Concha, fed up. You're going to have to give me more to go on than just that, Hugh demanded. You can't just tell me there's this sorceress and expect me to blindly follow you there. You've got to give me more details. You know what? No, this isn't how this works. If you want my help, we do it the right way. Otherwise, you're on your own, kid. Concha spat, hopping from the hole in the boy's head and starting to take his leave. Kid thinks I'm just gonna lay out the whole plot to him, he muttered to himself. The white ant was in mid-leap into a pile of fallen orphanage lumber when Hugh caught him with an outstretched hand. I'll play along, I promise. Just please help me, he begged. I'm glad you've come along, my boy. We'll find the one that can help you in the wayward woods, Concha instructed as he burrowed back into Hugh's head. There the white ant laid the knowledge necessary to meet the woman in the wood, using tunnels to create new neural pathways in his puppet brain. With these new memories inserted and Concha in tow, he wandered out of the orphanage and into the wayward woods. So where is she exactly? He asked. You'll know her when you see her, the white ant placated from inside the puppet's head. At that moment, the two came upon a woman whom was trapped in the branches of a tree. Are you the woman of the wayward woods? Hugh called out upon seeing her. Brushing loose twigs and pine cones from her tangly hair, she responded in a voice like the creaking of trees. It is I, and you appear to be the boy of the wood. The woman chuckled at that, forcing little moths to fly out from her mouth. Why don't you climb out of that tree and speak to us face to face? Said the boy, ignoring the woman's poor attempt at humor. The woman chuckled again and began choking until a little baby sparrow rolled out of her mouth and flew away. Alas, I cannot, she finally choked out, pulling up her ragged dress, which appeared to be made of burlap. Hugh turned away, covering his eyes, not wishing to see the old woman exposing herself. It's okay, my dear, she creaked. Look, Hugh, urged Concha. The puppet child opened his eyes to see the flesh under the woman's tattered cloth was overtaken by wood. It was then that he noticed that several branches also pierced her torso. You've been impaled by the tree, Hugh gasped. No, my dear, she said. A wicked sorcerer cursed me to spend the rest of eternity in this tree. I have since become one with the forest. The branches you see have simply grown around me. Oh, Hugh said. Does it hurt?
Don't forget why you're here, kid, Concha interjected, annoyed.
Yeah, sorry. My friend here told me you'd be able to help me get a new body, said the puppet boy timidly.
At that moment, Concha popped out of one of the many holes he had made in the boy's head and waved at the woman of the Wayward Woods.
You're a friend of Concha's, then? The woman asked. I suppose you could say that, the wooden child responded. In that case, I'd be happy to help, she chuckled. I imagine you still have a part of your original body, seeing as you're able to maintain that form.
Hugh laid his hand over the cabinet door in his chest.
Yes, my heart still beats in here. Now all I need is a single one of your heartstrings.
Hugh reluctantly coughed up a small brass key, still shiny as the day it was new, and unlocked his cabinet. As the door swung open, the Wayward Woods and the woman therein were bathed in a dim, pulsing crimson light. Hugh reached a shaky hand into his cabinet and plucked a single golden heartstring from his precious organ and extended it towards the woman of the Wayward Woods. In order to close the gap, Concha sprang from the boy's hand and, with a heartstring in his mouth, dove into the woman's tree.
Get out of my tree, you little pest,
spat the woman, just as the white ant sprung up next to her. Without a word, he handed the woman of the Wayward Woods the golden heartstring. Still glaring at Concha, she took the heartstring into her left palm and bit down hard into her right index finger. Apparently ignorant of any pain, she allowed the heartstring to be drowned by the brownish liquid leaking from the wound in her finger. Once satisfied, she squeezed the combination in between her clasped hands. After a day of strain, she opened her hands to reveal a piece of amber with the heartstring suspended inside. Just as the process seemed to be complete, the woman swallowed the item. She allowed it to gestate for several hours before coughing a shiny golden gem right into Hugh's outstretched hands.
With that,
she spoke for the first time in over a day,
you'll be able to find yourself a new earthly shell. I must rest now. Concha can help you with any details.
With that, she conked out with a loud, creaky snore. All right, kiddo, here's the deal, the white ant began. The best place for us to go for this would be the orphanage. Once we get there, we'll pick out a kid, and...
What do you mean, pick out a kid?
Hugh cut in. What did you think would happen? Chided Concha. Did you think a body would just come out of nowhere? We have to find one for you to transfer your consciousness into. It'll work the same way as you transferring into that puppet body, except with less dad tears. Hugh fell silent then and plopped to the floor, imitating the form in which he currently resided. After several days and nights of contemplation, Concha's constant nibbling had turned the boy's puppet body into Swiss cheese. But Hugh rose from the ground just the same.
I've decided to do it,
he finally spoke out. It's about time, my boy. What took you so long? His white ant companion questioned.
It was quite the decision to decide to take the life of a child for my own means. But what do I care? They're essentially rabid animals at this point anyway, answered Hugh.
That's the spirit, cried Concha, and the pair began the short walk back to the orphanage. Along the way, Hugh piped up.
So, how many times have you and the woman of the Wayward Woods done this thing?
Oh, countless times, garbled the white ant through a mouth of wood.
And what happens to the spirits of those who have their bodies taken? Continued Hugh.
No one knows. They probably just float around, answered Concha again. Why so many questions?
No reason, said Hugh dismissively. Just curious, I suppose.
The two were silent then, and for the rest of the trip they did nothing more than listen to the sound of Hugh walking and Concha munching. The pair arrived at the ruined orphanage relatively quickly, and took even less time picking out a suitable host for the boy's spirit. All you have to do is aim the gem at the person you want to transfer your body into, and try moving your thoughts over to it as if it's your own body, instructed the little creature. Then bam, zip! You'll shoot into the body and it'll be all yours. Hugh focused on a little red-headed boy whom had just captured a rabbit and was tearing into it with his sharp teeth. After all, it is believed that the souls of red-headed children are more easily displaced. Wait a moment, interjected Concha. I always like to get a good view of the soul transfer. He leapt then from the puppet's head to the crumbling orphanage wall that separated Hugh from his target and gave him a thumbs up. It is unclear what happened next. Perhaps the puppety lad had a change of heart, or perhaps the massive amounts of holes that the white ant had drilled into his head damaged his perception. Regardless of the reason, Hugh's soul shot straight into Concha. The disorientation that followed was mighty, as it always is when one takes up the body of one that they are unfamiliar with, especially so when the body is of an entirely different class of organisms. To those who were present, he didn't seem upset to be where he found himself. Instead, he took up a splinter of wood, some spare cloth, and fashioned a bindle with the gem in tow. Without a glance behind him, he hopped onto his discarded body and left the crumbling orphanage behind. Moral: never talk to strangers. How'd I get here? Ben? Are you okay? Ben?
I blacked.
Ben, your nose is bleeding. Ben. Ben, can I get you something? Ben, there's a
Turn off the light.
Ben, there's a running
Turn off the light.
There's a running recording. Oh my god. Oh my god, Ben.